Okay, so today I'm going to give an example of people, well, the way things are going these days with employment. A lot of people, and I have to admit I've seen a lot of people who have the idea that there are only two groups of people out there. One is the type of person who doesn't want to work, and then the other is the type of person that does. You get the two groups that basically see this as the people who are fully working, who are employed, and they're usually quite snobby. And then you get the people who are unemployed and they pretty much don't see any reason to work, so yeah, whatever. Anyway, the way I see things is different. I see a lot of other sort of levels of people, and it's quite interesting when you talk to several people that you find out that, well, now hang on a minute. Well, for one thing, in the situation I'm in, a lot of other people are in too, which is that you want to work, but you can't get a job. And that's actually quite a simple point. It's more in depth, but anyway, I'm going to start off at the top. Now, top of the line are the people who either own or they are fully employed. They usually, if they get fired or the company breaks down or something happens, they usually get a job quite quickly. These people are the snobby, stuck-up people who don't see any other way of doing anything but actually working, which is really unfortunate. Then under that you have the type of person that understands that it's difficult to get a job, who are employed and they see themselves as lucky that they've been able to either have the same job for their entire life, or they're fully employed and they've probably been only employed like 2 or 3 times throughout their lifetime. So yes. Then you've got the people who are part-time workers. Now these can usually have 1 or 2 jobs, and they're quite arrogant as to usually the top of the line where you either work or you don't. Or you can work or you don't want to work. Then you've got the part-time people who basically see that they are lucky to have the 2 jobs or the 3 jobs even that they have, maybe just the 1. They usually struggle or they're quite well off, but generally they see that it's not so simple to get work, and that type of person usually will be unemployed for, say, maybe a couple of days to no more than probably a few months. Then you get the people who are casually working. Now these can make sometimes more money in a pay compared to someone who's fully employed, and sometimes they make a lot less. They see that getting a job isn't that difficult because most of the time, and I shouldn't really use that word, but anyway, most of the time they are probably not actually unemployed for very long. We're talking maybe a few weeks until another job comes along that they can get. So they're basically going in and out of work all the time. Then you have the people where they can get work and they're usually unemployed for small periods of time. Say they might get 3 months work and then that's it. They don't get anything for, say, 6 to 12 months, maybe 2 years, and then they can start working again. And they usually on and off Centrelink all the time. Then you have the people who don't really care about work and they just see it as something to do, and then when they get sick of it they'll stop going there, or they'll just they won't show up. This type of person is quite interesting, to be honest with you, although they're not my favourite. Anyway, that's not the funny part. These people are generally just, yeah, well, I can just fall back on Centrelink, I don't care about you. And they go through life pretty much with that attitude. Then you have my favourite group of people, and I absolutely love these people. These are people who generally find it easy to get work. They have no problems with finding a job and working. They probably only work for about 2 weeks at each position. Unfortunately, they don't have much, well, let's say, zest or interest in working for too long. So what they'll generally do is actually assault their employer. I've had several people, which was kind of funny when I was working as a tree planter. Too bad to go to the hospital after that. What happened was, what this guy used to do was he'd work for a bit and then he'd get sick and tired, and he actually openly admitted this to me as, yeah, this is a good thing. He'd turn around and would punch his boss in the face just so he could get charged with assault and get the sack, or just get your sack. So I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, right. My favourite Australian. Oh. Anyway, then you've got the people who, you get down to the people who generally do their best and they struggle with getting a job. This type of person is able to get a job through normal means. Then you've got the big issue where they try hard at all sorts of jobs, and usually maybe one out of, say, 200 they'll get a reply out of. Now you get to the point where you have people who are physically or mentally disabled, and they can get a job quite simply. Usually with some little hurdles, but nothing serious. Then you have people like myself who, this is the annoying part with the way things go for me. I found other people like this. There was probably 2 or 3 others I found. The only way myself I can get work is if the business or the employer doesn't care about who they employ, just as long as they employ someone. These are usually labour jobs, and they don't. The few that I have done didn't end too well. Trust me, working for AAPT as a phone salesman wasn't exactly my forte, but when you've got a boss that starts telling you, don't worry about tax, you don't have to pay tax, blah blah blah, you get a little confused. Anyway, long story short, that didn't last too long, and I actually got punched in the face after I was sacked from one of the customers, so yeah, you can see why I left. I saw why I was fired. Anyway, the only other jobs I have been able to get, and that's at all, is basically ones that have been given to me. There was a place called Excite at one point. I was employed there. I did pretty much 2-3 days worth of work and was paid for that. All good and true. But that company was bought out, and everyone in my area, including my boss, was fired, which was interesting. Sadly, the only way I'm able to get work, and the only reason I was able to get that job, was that at the time I was working in a computer shop for free, and the owner of the shop knew this particular person, Excite, and I was employed. La-di-da, it's contract, and call them when you need it. That's the only way I can get work. Despite knowing a person, one of the managers in the Department of Education's Information Management branch, yeah, no luck there. Sort of having met the person at what used to be called Comstra. I don't know him too well, but talking to that person probably twice hasn't yielded any sort of results with employment. So I'm basically left here where you need to already be employed to be able to get a job, which is, I really think, is rather ridiculous. Actually, one of the trainee positions I saw in the paper once required someone to have at least, I'd say, 2 to 3 years knowledge of a pretty unique program, and they were wanting a traineeship for this person. So they were after someone fully qualified with a program, and they just wanted to employ them as a trainee. Yeah, I'd like to see that luck. And again, you've got desperate people. So you can basically see where I'm coming from. Anyway, it's almost 10 minutes, so I better quit this. Anyway, that's the end of the video.